Good evening and welcome to the Joint Town Council Bay Path Vocational School Committee meeting of Monday, November 26, 2018 at 6:30. I'll call this meeting to order at 6:35 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Councillor Adams.
Present.
Councillor Auclair. Councillor Daniel.
Present.
Councillor DePietro. Councillor Jovan.
Present.
Councillor Manna.
Present.
Councillor Morales. Councillor Nash.
Excused.
Councillor Steves.
Present.
And Helen Lenti.
Present.
Okay, we do have a quorum present for this meeting. Just first, welcome Mrs. Lenti to the council.
Thank you.
The purpose today is to vote to confirm the appointment of a selected candidate to fill a vacancy on the Southern Worcester County Vocational School Committee effective immediately through June 11, 2019, which would be the date of the town election. We have two candidates this evening. We have Jacqueline Ryan of Southbridge and Constantino Tata of Southbridge. This is to fill a term for the recently vacated position that was held by Michael Langevin. So with that, I'll open the floor up to our candidates, and I guess we'll go alphabetically. So first off, welcome, Helen, again.
Thank you.
So Jacqueline Ryan, if you want to come up and just present yourself, your reasons for wanting to take this position.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm tall. Thank you, members of the Town Council, Ms. Lenti. My name is Jacqueline Ryan, and I am applying to fill a vacancy on the Bay Path School Committee created by the resignation of Mr. Langevin. I'll keep my remarks short because most of you know me and gotten to know me over the last couple of years. I hope to bring my years of service serving on multiple committees and school committees to the table. More specifically, my years serving on a regional vocational committee. I hope to bring my experience working on regional transportation and other vocational related issues to the table. And all of you here tonight know my commitment to addressing educational equity within the Southbridge public school systems. And I want to bring that same level of commitment to the Bay Path Committee. I also want to make clear that regardless of the vote tonight, I will be running for the two-year seat in the upcoming election. And I know the question's been asked whether there would be a conflict with someone serving on multiple school committees. And it's a valid question. It's why I not only talked to the receiver of Southbridge Public Schools, Dr. Villar, and talked to Superintendent LaFleche, but also contacted the State Ethics Commission and looked within our own charter. And all the signs point to there not being a conflict. And I think that's really important. I want to bring my experience, my generational perspective, and my passion for education to the Bay Path School Committee. And I hope to have your support tonight. Thank you so much.
Okay. Questions of Ms. Ryan? Anybody have any questions? Councilor Steves?
Jackie, just a quick summary, if you could, I guess mostly for the essence, you're right, we all know who you are and your experience. And for the most part, how would you summarize for the audience watching what you see yourself doing? I'm assuming you're going to stay on the Southbridge School Committee at the same time, correct?
Yes.
How do you see yourself juggling both of them?
I have served on multiple committees before, not only in this community, but in the last community I lived in. I see myself being able to handle that task. Again, the Southbridge School Committee is very limited in its role in its current form.
Sure.
And I would not apply for a position if I did not think I would be able to handle it. Mm-hmm. I truly believe my passion and my willingness to work with everybody is something that I want to bring to the Bay Path Committee, and I truly believe I can handle the responsibility.
And what do you see the biggest differences between being on our school committee and being on Bay Path says, other than the fact that the current school committee doesn't have any real authority?
Oh, there's clear differences. One is it's a regional district, so it has to deal with regional funding, which has never been properly funded by the state,
Sure.
right? That's something that each regional district has to look at every single year and keep a really tight eye on. Also, the emphasis on vocational education is really important. Making sure there's continued support for those vocational programs, looking forward for grants and other opportunities to expand those vocational programs and expand access to them is something that the Southbridge School Committee does not have to deal with. Also, Bay Path's in a far different position overall compared to the Southbridge School Committee, right? Sure. So I think there's multiple issues, but there's specific regional and vocational issues that I have experience working on since I served on the Tantasco Regional Committee that I would be able to address effectively.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions?
I just wanted to make a comment.
Yes.
I know that, Jackie, you researched this as far as it being a conflict, and I'm sure the information you learned was correct. I just can't help feeling that at some point in time, something would happen that would be a conflict, and you might be very uncomfortable about it, and that worries me a little bit.
I want to be clear. I don't believe there'd ever be a conflict, but if there ever was, I would recuse myself on both committees from that particular issue to make sure there was no conflict of interest. Again, after doing my research, because they're both elected boards and nothing in our charter specifically states that I can't serve on both, and the State Ethics Commission has made clear that there is no conflict, I don't believe a conflict would come up, but I will make that commitment that if there were a conflict, that I would recuse myself from both boards from
Thank
taking
you.
a stance on that matter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple quick questions. There's no doubt about your level of experience and your compassion for education. I guess my concern would be the multiple bodies. There's no doubt that they are distinct, but given all the issues that we have at the Southbridge school system, and the amount of, I believe, investment of time and energy that we're going to take as a board, both on the school committee side and the town council side, why stretch yourself to another board instead of really being fully committed to the Southbridge Public Schools and the change that is needed in this district?
And that's a fair question as well. Like I said before, if I felt like it was going to stretch my ability to be effective as a school committee member of Southbridge, I would not have applied. I've had lengthy conversations with both Mr. LaFleche and the receiver. I truly think that I would be able to effectively serve on both boards and that it would not impact my ability to do both. I have committed myself, worked really hard, and devoted a lot of spare time to addressing the issues within the Southbridge Public School District. Again, if I thought it was going to impact my ability to do that, I would not be applying for this board. But I know I have extra time that I would be able to give towards, especially on those vocational regional issues that I have an expertise with. And I don't believe, I actually know that I would not be overstretched or unable to fulfill both roles very effectively.
Okay. And as a follow-up to that, there's no doubt that you may feel that you're not stretched, but I look at the perception as the champion of the Southbridge School District to lead the torch as chairman of the Southbridge School District to say, hey, look, this is my full commitment is to Southbridge Public Schools, and there are so many issues that we have to address that I'm going to devote all my time. And I know you're involved on the council side through general government to help us through that process there. But to stretch yourself to another regional district instead of really being that you are the figurehead of the Southbridge School Committee, while there's some issues as to what role you may play, I believe there's a large role in the school committee. So why not devote all that drive and fire to that one issue to really make a difference in Southbridge, and perhaps you have other candidates to help out in Bay Path. And a year from now, say, okay, maybe I'll run if things in Southbridge have a good change over this next 6 months.
So like I said, I don't think I would not have put myself in this position if I felt that was going to impact my ability to lead the committee or work with the receiver, or it would negatively impact my ability to work on Bay Path. Right now, like I said, I've worked closely with Dr. Villar. I don't see this being a negative impact, and I've already stated to multiple people, if there's a willingness to step up on the Southbridge School Committee side, I would gladly step away from the chairmanship. It's not about being that leader or being that central figure for me. It's about making sure I can do the best where I can and when I can. And I know I have the ability to be that positive influence on both committees.
Okay, thank you. Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I just want to say I've known Jackie for quite some time. She graduated my daughter from Tantascwa. I was very happy to see her get involved on the school committee at a very young age, and she just gave it her all. And then she moves to Southbridge, and she gives it her all here in Southbridge. She does work hard for what she believes in and what's supposed to be right. She would also be working. Bay Path is a public school, and Southbridge is part of that. So she would be working on behalf of the students who live in Southbridge that go to Bay Path. So I think it's fair to say that she would be working not only for the Southbridge public schools, for the children that go to the Southbridge public schools, but for the children that live in Southbridge that are at the vocational end. So I think she is very able to do this, and she's right in regards to the conflict. There's nothing in our charter that would stop her from serving on both boards. There's only language in there for the town council. She's young, she's got that drive, she's got that willingness, and she's got my support. Thank you.
Any further questions? Council Steves?
Thank you. First off, I'm just going to quick comment and say that I also know Jackie from back when you were on Tantascwa as well. I mean, I remember that too. So you definitely have the drive. I do have a quick question for Helen, actually. As the other sitting Bay Path member, do you know of anybody who has ever done double duty in a local school committee and a Bay Path school committee?
I never have. And
No,
I
not on
also
Bay
have
Path?
an example. Oh, I don't want to cut in on
Oh, go
your
ahead.
comment.
Go ahead.
But I too admire Jackie and
Yeah.
for everything she does. But I'm sitting here thinking about this conflict thing, which you say you would recuse yourself from, which is fine, but we have had some years where we make our approach to the 8th grade school because it's time to start recruiting students for our freshman year at Bay Path.
Right.
And Southbridge naturally wants to keep all the students they can, and we've had some problems here, so we want to keep all the students we can. Where they've really been obstinate and opposed to even allowing our information to come into the school, for the students to take it home. This has happened more than once.
Oh,
Now, if
that's
Jackie, if you were on the school committee of both, would your loyalty be toward sending the Southbridge school children to Bay Path if some kind of resistance like that occurred, or the Bay Path School Committee where you're working as hard as you can to get this information out to parents and students so that they know what happens up there and the opportunities that exist? How would you handle that? To me, that's a kind of a conflict that you shouldn't recuse yourself from.
Well, I disagree that I think that would be a conflict. I don't think that'd be a conflict. Expanding and allowing information is never an issue, and I think allowing that type of information to go out to students, especially since Southbridge is part of that body, is not an issue. And I guess my argument to that would be is we have to do what's best for the kids. We have to do what's best for the kids of our community.
Okay.
That comes first. And regardless
That's true.
of the roles we play, that's what's always at my focus. And being on both allows me to do what's best for all of the kids within the Southbridge Public Schools and the Bay Path Public Schools.
Great. Thank
Okay.
you.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you. Mr. Tatum?
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you. Good evening. Well, I'm Dino Tater, Constantino Tater, but I'm known as Dino to those of you who know me. I've been at Southbridge now for 53 years. Very proud to say that I put my children through the Southbridge school system. Both boys are in their 50s now. They're successful, due in no small part to the excellence we had in the Southbridge school system. I've worked extensively with Bay Path School. As a member of the Southbridge Rotary Club for the last 40 years, I was chairman of their scholarship committee on a program we call RILA. It's a leadership program for 18 of the last 20 years. And in that capacity, I've sent 100 to 110 students on leadership conferences on Rotary's dollar. Some of those students were from Southbridge High, some were from Bay Path. We send 6 a year. As a result of that, I got to work with the students. And we interview each and every student. We don't let an outside service do it for them. Myself and 2 or 3 others interview each and every student. I've never failed to be impressed with the quality of the students in the tri-community area. Southbridge High students, Bay Path students, great kids, and I see a great future for them. They're smart, intelligent, dedicated, committed, and it would just be my pleasure to work with them in a deeper capacity than just giving them scholarships. Through my affiliation with NASA, I've worked with a number of students at Bay Path, students in the graphics department, the arts department, the department that handles the 3D printers, and I've actually used some of them in presentations I do at WPI and other facilities, science expos, things like that. Bay Path, I'm very familiar with the administration, some of the staff, a lot of the students have been for many, many years. I think it's a great school, a great facility. It would be my honor to try and make a contribution to continue the excellence that they perform. It's a wonderful place, very well run, and I think I can make a contribution. I spent 40 years of my life as a commercial banker, and in that role, I did the budgets for a number of branches. I ran the entire downtown Worcester area of our banks. That involved doing a budget every year in the tens of millions of dollars. So a school budget would not intimidate me. I've handled budgets of that size many, many, many times in the past. I've also, as a commercial lender, I financed multi-million-dollar projects, which means I had to analyze their budget and make sure they could repay it. Very proud to say that not one of those projects they ever financed has gone under. They've all been successful. So I think I have some real talents, especially in the finance area, that I can bring to the Bay Path School Committee. It would be my pleasure and my honor and my privilege to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Any questions of Mr. Taylor? Questions? Councilor Steves?
Hi again, Dino.
Yeah.
Well, thank you first of all for putting your name in. I hope you could explain a little bit more about what, if you end up getting appointed to this seat, what would you say your primary role on Bay Path as a committee member will be? You've said a lot of stuff about working with students and stuff from the outside. Mm-hmm. What do you see your role as a Bay Path committee member being?
I see my member primarily as making a contribution to their budget committee, to their budget subcommittee. I also have developed people skills over 40 years in a bank. You can't survive if you don't in the banking industry. And I think I will bring that to it, where I can bring a force that will help people work together, but on a subcommittee basis in the area of the budget primarily.
Any follow-up?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just a comment?
Yes.
I've known Mr. Tater for many years, and I think that as a school committee member for Bay Path, he would bring a new and fresh outlook and new ideas to what happens at that school. He thoroughly enjoys being there. He's thoroughly impressed with what happens there, and he's always looking for more ways to know more about Bay Path. I think he would be a good school committee member. I really do.
Thank you. Councilor Steves?
Actually, I do have a follow-up. Either way, whichever way this goes, would you be willing to run in June when the actual election comes up?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. I noticed from your application paperwork that you have been involved in a couple of town committees, but they were back in the 90s or thereabouts. Mm-hmm. How do you? And if I'm not mistaken, none of them were elected. what's your take on, because it's a bit of a difference running for an appointed post versus running for an elected post. So would you care to comment on that a little?
Excuse me, I did have a problem hearing the end of that, Gus.
I said that there's a bit of a difference between running for an appointed post versus running for an elected post. So would you care to comment a little bit on that and what your thoughts are on that?
I have never run for an elected position before.
Right.
So I'm not familiar with the differences. I assume what happens here, you all have my resume, you'll have Jackie's resume. You're going to review those, form an opinion, and you're going to make the best decision you possibly can make. Whichever one you think is going to be the best is who you're going to give the position to, and that's as it should be. Right. But running an election, I'd probably have to ask you how to do that, Gus.
What was that again?
I'd probably have to ask you how to do that.
Councilor Manna?
If I just may comment on that, to Councilor Steve's point, I don't think there'd be any difference. He's being appointed to do something, and if he ran for election, I mean, he'd be doing the same thing. I mean, he will have the same responsibilities. I don't believe there's any difference.
Mostly,
So
but it's a little different
he'd
from
still
running
have
for
the same
election.
responsibilities. He'd just have to do some grassroots. That's all. Thank you.
This is a follow-up comment. Thank you for putting your name in, Mr. Tater. I do appreciate all the work that you did with the Rotary and Ryler, having two of my kids being your Rylands. It was a great program, and I know several other students that graduated with both of my children that had the experience for that. So thank you for that program, because it is very beneficial to our students.
My pleasure.
Thank you for leading that. So any further questions of?
Just a comment. I just wanted to say thank you to Jackie and Dino for putting your names in for this post. It takes a lot of courage to run for office or be appointed to office, and I guess that's why we only have two people here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So we have two candidates. First one is Ms. Ryan. The second one is Mr. Tater. Are there any nominations? Councilor Manna?
I'd like to nominate Jacqueline Ryan.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further nominations?
I'd like to nominate Dino Tater.
Is there a second? I'll second that for the purposes of discussion and vote. Okay. So both have been put in. Any further discussion on each candidate? Councilor Daniel?
Yes, I'd like to say that both candidates presented themselves very well. They're both very highly qualified, and I'm pleased to see that people in town are willing to step up and help out. I hope that's been something that's been set from the council as an expectation, and that the townspeople have picked up on it and have come along to join us as we move Southbridge forward. I think Mr. Tater really presents very well with his previous work on the scholarship committee and being familiar with Bay Path's faculty and staff, and his exposure to finance over the course of his career is very, very good. Ms. Ryan and I have worked together on some subcommittees. I find her to be very smart, to be very dedicated, to be determined, and to be very specific about what her feelings are. You never guess with Jackie about what's going on. But one thing about Ms. Ryan that really impresses me is that she's got a specific background in regional education. And as I look at the two candidates, that kind of tips it for me, and I'm going to support Ms. Ryan.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, could you call the roll, Madam Secretary?
Councilor Adams?
Yes. No. Yeah, Ryan or two, no, the other. Ryan.
Councilor Daniel?
Ryan.
Councilor Jaban?
Tater.
Councilor Manna?
Ryan.
Councilor Morales?
I will be abstaining.
Councilor Steves?
Ryan.
Ms. Lenti?
Tater.
Okay, that was 4 for Ryan and 2 for Tater,
And one abstention.
and 1 abstention.
All right, Congratulations, Jackie. Mr. Tater, we hope to see you coming forward. Okay. Any further business? Thank you again, Ms. Lenti, for being here.
Thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. We'll be adjourned for a few minutes.